Alright, as it turns out, we're nearing the end of the year, and have still yet to hear any news on Riot's upcoming fighting game. I was kinda hoping that they would show up at the Game Awards, but alas, nothing. So, in this long extended news drought, I've decided to take it upon myself to analyze the teaser footage we do have to try and figure out what's going on in this game that I am honestly anticipating way too much given how little we know about it, which is like less than 30 seconds of gameplay. But hey, it's something. Also, I should say, I'm going to assume I am almost certainly not the first person to analyze this footage in detail, but I haven't watched any videos with that premise, so my thoughts are entirely my own here. Right, first gameplay clip. Since the HUD is completely turned off on this one, it's hard to deduce anything, really, besides the character confirmations, but come on, you already knew about that. But there is one thing I want to point out before we move on, and that's what moves are on display here. Notice that as soon as the move connects, the camera takes a closer angle, and after a decent bit of hit stop animation, followed in Darius' case by a cinematic sequence. This is relevant later in my analysis, so just keep it in the back of your mind as we move on. Right, first thing I want to point out with this clip is right underneath Jinx's combo counter, and that's the Juggle counter. Rising Thunder, the game that Project L developers Radiant worked on before being acquired by Riot, had a similar counter that limited the length of air combos to 5 hits. I'm going to assume that's what this counter is, due to its similarity to the Rising Thunder counter, even though we never actually get to see it run all the way out. Notably, this Juggle counter is a little bit different from Rising Thunder's Juggle counter, because that one counted up to 5, and this one counts down from 5, although I'm going to assume it works just about the same. Another thing that's closely related to that, Katarina actually falls out of Jinx's air combo before the Juggle counter runs out. It's hard to tell why this happens, but I'm going to assume that there was a gap in the hit stun and she air teched a la Guilty Gear or Uni or something. Another thing, since the HUD is on, I have the opportunity to bring your attention to this mystery meter right underneath the timer. My immediate instinct with this is that it might be a stun meter, a la Street Fighter, given its proximity to the health and timer bars, but this doesn't seem to actually have an effect on any of the gameplay teasers, so it's hard to tell what it actually does. Also, in this clip, you can see what will eventually be very apparent to be the EX meter, but I'll bring that up a little bit later. Okay, next gameplay clip. And right again, our first point of observation is right underneath the combo counter, where Katarina has apparently performed an interrupt. Because of where the clip starts, we don't really get to see the whole of what this is. But, if you remember the zoom-in moves from the first clip, I suspect those are other examples of this interrupt mechanic. I say that because of the presence of both a very similar shift in the camera angle and a very similar sort of cinematic sequence going on here. Beyond that, it's really hard to tell what the interrupt mechanic actually does. Maybe it's some sort of universal reversal option, we don't know. Looking a little lower on the screen, we can see that both Katarina and Darius have some character-specific meters. Katarina's meter notably absent from the last clip, by the way. Darius's meter is in the shape of the symbol of Noxus, and Katarina has what I would assume is some sort of knife counter. Similar to the mystery meter next to the timer, these meters never actually have an effect on the gameplay, so it's hard to tell what they do, but I have some speculation for later on in the video. Going from UI to gameplay, here we can see Katarina's EX meter in action. She turns gold when performing a move, and the meter goes down. This is pretty standard EX system for fighting games. Right after that sequence, we can see Darius do a jump-in move, and when Kat blocks it, she turns blue and Darius' mystery meter is drained a little bit. This suggests that maybe this is a stun meter, since the stun meter going down when a move is blocked kinda makes sense. But that doesn't explain Kat turning blue. Now, this is the only block in the trailer, so maybe this is just what blocking looks like, but I kind of suspect it's some sort of special defense mechanic, a bit like Faultless Defense or Under Night's Shield. And lastly, the guy in the clip is playing with keyboard, so Project L is seemingly maintaining Rising Thunder's design goal of playing well on keyboard. The last thing I want to bring up here isn't quite about what we saw, it's more about what we didn't see, and that's any indication of special move cooldowns in the HUD. Back in Rising Thunder, the factor that reined in the power of special moves was a cooldown mechanic like you would have in a MOBA or Overwatch or something. Motion inputs are what normally balance special moves in fighting games, but Rising Thunder did away with them to make the game more accessible, and introduced special move cooldowns for balance. The relevance here is that we aren't seeing any UI elements in the Project L teasers that would indicate any sort of special move cooldowns. So that raises the question, what factor will balance special moves if not cooldowns, since that isn't showing in the clip, and not motion inputs, which don't seem likely given the game's design lineage to Rising Thunder? Well, I suspect the character-specific meters from the Darius and Katarina clip may have the answer. I think these might represent some sort of character-specific hoops that players have to jump through in order to access their most powerful specials. Like, Kat may only be able to do a certain amount of knife-throwing specials without somehow reloading, or maybe just per round, and Darius can probably do something special when he fills that meter. Although it's really impossible to say what at this point, anyone's guess is as good as mine. And with that, that's everything that I could pick apart from these trailers. If you have anything you'd like to add, or if I missed something, feel free to drop a comment. Thanks for watching.
Now, how about drums? An instrument